The marathon of hangouts. Hi, my name is Tim Adams, and welcome to another Hangout on Air. Today we're going to be talking about feedback in your audio system. That is one of the most noticeable issues that people attribute to poor audio technicians or bad audio systems or just a poor experience altogether. So we have with us Charles Smith and Zach. Is it Delano?
Delano, yeah.
Delano. All right. Well, I had a 50-50 shot. So, first off, we need to define what feedback is. So, at its very simplest explanation, feedback is when the sound from the microphone is amplified through a speaker system, and the microphone picks up what's coming out of the speaker or the monitor. And sometimes there are just user error. Let's say a musician is singing a chorus as backup vocal, and then they stop singing and they put their arm down, pointing the mic at the monitor that's right in front of them. That's just going to induce feedback. And that's just poor mic etiquette, and that's a training issue. Sometimes the feedback comes from speakers being behind where the microphones are. They should always be at least on the same plane, if not out in front of the microphones. Those are some of the most common, and I'm going to be going over some tips and tools and tricks that you can do before the program, during the program, to help eliminate that. But before we get to that, I'd like to ask Charles if he could maybe give us a rundown of his experience with feedback.
Yeah, so my experience with feedback, Brandon, I'm not, should I say, trained in audio or anything. Mine's, as people would say in the music community, I tune by ear. And the first church I had experience working with a sound system in was a stucco building or masonry type building, which was very prone to feedback because you have a lot of echoes that can get carried around and carried back into the microphone from the speakers. Versus the church I'm in now was wood paneling, and it's a little better, or was a little better. Then we remodeled our sanctuary and got rid of the wood paneling and went to sheetrock, which seems to get a little better. So the thing kind of through my learning experience is you have to tune for feedback issues based on the building type you're in and the materials you have in your sanctuary, because some things reflect sound and some things absorb sound.
Yeah, that's pretty safe to say. And generally speaking, the more reflective the surface, which generally is based on how hard it is or how dense, will also have a very significant impact on how reflective that surface is. The more reflective the surface, the more likely feedback is to happen. For example, my church is a mobile church. We meet in the commons area in a local middle school, and it's linoleum floor and brick walls. It's extremely what we call live. It's very reflective. You have many surfaces that sound just bounces off of versus getting absorbed into. And we've had to make some pretty significant changes as far as monitor placement, as far as speaker placement, and how loud we can run the microphones and all that. But what have you found, Charles, that generally has worked other than just material in the space?
Biggest thing besides material in the space, like you said, is speaker slash microphone placement. I mean, first lesson learned I had was always make sure your speakers are in front of the mic if at all possible, which of course some building designs don't allow for that. Meaning the microphone's here and the speakers are out here. The other thing is just sitting down at your soundboard and kind of tuning it. Like I said, I'm kind of a tune by ear person. You kind of tweak your board because usually your board has an equalizer on it per input, and you can adjust your high, mids, and lows. And typically with feedback issues, I've noticed, which I may be incorrect here, the highs and the mids are your biggest enemy. So you kind of get your microphone at a volume that you think is going to be a good volume, and then you tweak on your highs and your mids to counter for feedback, and hopefully you still end up with a crisp sound. Depending on your environment, sometimes it can get pretty hairy.
Well, that's true. And have you experienced the different sounds of feedback? Sometimes it's a low rumble in the low end, sometimes it's a piercing screech, sometimes it sounds more like a howl. Have you experienced that, or have you just experienced the high end screech?
Most of it's been high end primarily.
Okay. Well, just so people can understand that feedback can happen at just about any frequency. And that's not to say that you're doing anything wrong necessarily um, in your mix. It just could be the room, as we were talking about already. But this seems like a pretty good opportunity for us to kind of segue into talking about what we can do um, before the program to kind of help alleviate any potential feedback. And we've already discussed placing speakers in front of the microphones, um, making sure that if you have a microphone up to your face like this, that your monitor is somewhere, within this 30-degree arc, so that the sound from the monitor isn't getting into the microphone directly. That's never a good thing. Teaching proper mic etiquette. If you're singing, great. If not, it goes down here. You know, and if you're singing, you want the highest signal to noise ratio. And so we use the two-finger rule, which is the head of the microphone is 2 fingers widths away from your mouth, from your lips. That gives you a really nice, good, direct, and strong signal. Another thing that you see with some of the younger and not necessarily as experienced singers and musicians is when they're hand-holding a microphone and they're singing, maybe they're doing a little, I don't know, crazy hip-hop Christian stuff, I don't know, but they'll cup the microphone. So the back of the microphone will be stuck into their hand. And that's a no-no. It has to do with, again, it's kind of bouncing the signals into the microphone at a different time, shall we say, than the original signal. And so just hold it behind the grill, on the nice long handle that's there for your hand. And again, that's proper mic etiquette. One of the other things that you can do is what's called tuning or ringing out the room. And in order to show how that occurs, Charles, we're going to try this. We're going to try screen share. Are we getting it? Hey, we are. Look at that.
Yay, we got it.
Fantastic. All right, so if you can see my mouse here, we have what's called a channel strip. So at the very top, you have where you plug in the microphone. And then you've got a couple jacks here. We're not going to talk about that. And then you have what's called the gain knob, or the gain, or the trim. And this is essentially the first place where you can adjust how much signal you're driving into the board. And now this is a very important knob. Generally, you want this to be at the 12 o'clock position, which is straight up. So it's about 50%. From there, you're going to leave your EQ straight up, 12 o'clock. Sometimes you'll have what we call a 3-band EQ, highs, mids, lows. Sometimes you'll have a sweepable mid EQ, which is traditionally here. So in this case, you'll see that this is your gain for your mid frequency, and this is the sweep. So you can adjust to a certain extent the frequency that you're adjusting with this gain knob for those mids. So just bear that in mind. Down here you have your fader. I mean, this is kind of elementary and basic for those that know and use a soundboard every week. However, you may not know how to ring out a room. So you're going to take this fader and you're going to have somebody talking into the microphone as you're doing this, and you're going to bring this all the way up, or at least until you start hearing feedback coming out of your speakers. Okay, then you're going to come back up here to your gain knob, and you're going to adjust that down until you can get the fader all the way to the top without feedback. And then you're going to really fine tune this trim or gain knob so that you may hear just a hint of feedback, but it's not going to get any worse. And sometimes you really have to develop your ear for this. Now, the reason that you do this is so that when you bring your fader down to unity, which is that U on the channel strip down here, that means that you know that with every mic that you do this to, you can run that fader all the way to the top, and you're never going to induce feedback through any action of your own. Okay, so that's what's called ringing out the room. Now, sometimes that's not always going to do it. You know, sometimes you just won't be able to get the signal level to the point where you need it to be in the room, and that's where we go into the EQ. Now, generally speaking, human voices exist in the 1 kilohertz frequency range. So what you're going to do is you're going to go to your mids, which again is right in here, the middle or the middle 2 knobs, and you're going to find 1 kilohertz on your frequency, and or if you don't have a sweepable mid, you're just going to go to your mid knob and you're going to turn it down. And generally speaking, that's going to help you. If you're still getting a fair amount of feedback, then you're probably going to want to dial the highs down as well. Because, Charles, I absolutely agree with you. That's where the troublesome frequencies usually reside. It's very rare, in my experience, that you have to dial the lows down. But if you're getting a low rumble and you can't explain where it's coming from and you can't control it with the fader, then that's probably because the low-end frequencies are causing a loop in the speakers or the monitors. So that's kind of a general overview of how you ring out a room. And I'm going to put myself back on here. There we go. So before we move on, questions? Does all of that make sense? I guess the child says it doesn't.
Well, I was waiting to give Zach an opportunity to speak first, but if Zach doesn't have a question, I would like you to put that graphic up. I do have one kind of question there.
Sure.
And maybe a comment as well.
Okay.
All right. Cool. Yeah, it's interesting to see this graphic because it almost looks just like our soundboard. The one thing that's different about our soundboard, and I've noticed this varies by brand and model. Sometimes what you're saying is the unity section is also, like on our board, referred to as, I think, the 0 point. So like on the slider down there at the bottom, you've got like negative values leading up to 0, and then above 0 you have positive values.
Correct.
And, you know, I didn't read any books or anything. Like I said, I've tuned by ear, and when I tuned our soundboard, you know, I put the slider at 0 and then adjusted the gain and the equalizer until I got it where I wanted it. Now, yes, there are some mics, if I try to drive them all the way up on the slider, they're going to cause feedback, but once again, it depends on who's using the mic. Like, I'm in a church of primarily older members, so a lot of older members tend to not hold the mic close enough. So the challenge I've had, you know, in some instances on some mics that I know older people are going to use, I keep the gain turned way up on them and then use the slider to adjust to compensate for the fact that they're not holding the mic close to them. And of course, that's a delicate dance.
Yes, it
is.
Sometimes
you create feedback just by having that. But,
right.
But I've kind of got it down where that doesn't happen as much. But yeah, mic etiquette is a big thing. But in my experience, the mic etiquette faux pas, if you will, has always been people not holding the mic close enough. They're afraid of it.
Right. Yeah, and that's a common problem in church tech. And really, I think the decision that you have to make is do I try and ride that line? Do I try and do that dance between adequate sound level and possibly inducing feedback, or inadequate sound level and just requiring them to move the microphone closer to them to their mouths like they should? For me, I tend to vacillate, just go back and forth between them depending on the environment that I'm in. But generally speaking, I would say that I'm kind of like you, Charles. I have enough trust and confidence in my abilities to be able to ride that and push it as much as I can without bringing in feedback. But yeah, it's a tough position to be in, certainly. Um, but this is ringing out the room that's how the pros do it, and it's not a bad practice to get into. But one of the detriments is that it does take two people to do it, one talking on each microphone in turn, and one to tune the board. And then the other detriment is that in a situation like you described, you're not going to necessarily be able to get the sound level that you want because you tested it with somebody talking into it with proper etiquette, and in the live situation, you're having somebody with very poor etiquette. You have to ride that line. I think Zach actually looks like he had a question or a comment.
Yeah, no, that's just the whole bringing out the room thing. I'm more taught, in addition to kind of learn from the older people that had, as far as doing tech in church. So it wasn't as much I learned the proper way per se. So the whole bringing out the room thing is actually, I had never heard of that. That is very logical and cool sounding. That's really awesome. I mean, just as like a base, base thing. But obviously, yeah, totally encountered the whole people not doing proper coding ups, and even ideal situations if you have the mic on a stand um, and like someone's taller than what you stand for or whatever. Any other situation like that, yeah, you just try to use the gain, but in extreme moderation.
Yeah, as we've been saying, it's a very delicate balance, and it's you got to be good at it, and you got to know what you're doing because if you're just moving sliders around and turning knobs, then man, you're just begging for trouble. Charles, you indicate that you have one more question.
Yeah, I do have one remaining question. Feel free to make this the correct Charles's bad habits session. I don't mind because a lot of this is self-taught knowledge. So I mean, if I'm doing the wrong things here, don't dance around it. Call me out on it. I don't care. I can take it.
Okay.
But as far as ringing out a room, what is the best practice as far as ringing out a room? Do you do it with an empty room or a full room or somewhere in the middle? What's the adequate? Because as you add people, that changes the dynamics of the sound in the room because people reflect and absorb sound too. So I've always tuned a room or rung out a room. I call it tuning a room. I use a different terminology with
Sure.
an empty sanctuary, and then try to adjust based on that. But is that the best practice?
Well, generally speaking, you would ring it out. You would ring the room out when it's empty, and that is a little counterintuitive because, like you said, the acoustics change when you add people. The problem is when the people are in there, you being able to ring out the room is not only going to be distracting, it's going to be annoying. So the idea is that when you ring out a room, you get it pretty close. Um, Generally speaking, the more people you add, the more um, the more sound you'll be able to put out without necessarily um, inducing feedback because the sound level that would otherwise be getting into the microphone is being absorbed by the live audience. That's not always true. Again, it depends on the room and the surfaces that are in the room and that kind of thing. So in my case, I'm pretty confident in saying an empty room is going to be pretty similar because I have reflective surfaces on the ceilings, the walls, and the floor. Whereas if you have something with drywall or wood paneling or even acoustic panels, it's going to be totally different. And because we are in a live or a mobile environment, our setup changes every week. And to be quite honest, I don't ring out the room. It's just not something that we've gotten into the habit of doing, simply because we, for the most part, don't have the time to go through every single microphone. We get in at 2:45, we're doing band rehearsal till 4:30, and then we're testing the videos, we're testing the pastor's mic, we're testing the wireless handheld announcement mic, and by that time it's go time. It's go. We got to start the service at 5, and we're running until 6:15, 6:20. So there's really not a lot of time. The focus is getting sound up quickly and adjusting on the fly. And there are certain benefits to that, there are certain drawbacks to that. I'm not saying it's right, I'm not saying it's wrong. I think, we're just putting the information out there. This is how the professionals do it. And if this is a practice that you would like to start to adopt, certainly it's a lot better to do this in an installed situation where you have a building and the acoustical nature of the room is not going to change that drastically from week to week. You could probably get away with doing this maybe once a month, just to make sure things are okay. If you have a digital sound system or a digital sound mixer, you can ring out the room and then save that as a preset, and then that's where you start every single week. You just call up the preset, and you know that you're starting from a working configuration. That's one example of how this could be beneficial. I feel like I'm talking a lot.
No, you're good.
Yeah, it's good. It's just that's what happens when you have just a couple of guys on here, but it'll work for the video later. Believe me, I've got people I want to share this video with.
Oh, good. Good. Well, the idea is just to provide useful information, and whatever that looks like. So we had initially talked about just doing feedback for this HOA. And then, Charles, I think it was your suggestion that if we kind of exhaust that subject, maybe we could talk about other issues in sounds like hums and hisses and annoyances like that. So before we go there, do you think we've covered feedback adequately?
I believe we have,
Definitely,
unless
yeah.
Zach's got anything else.
No, I'm
Okay.
good. Great, yeah.
Oh, one of the other things is there are varying schools of thought, and I think this will be the last thing I want to cover with feedback, as far as, do you leave your microphones unmuted when they're not being used? Do you mute them? There's two schools of thought on that. I come from the school of thought, the way I was trained is, if the microphone or the instrument, if the channel is not being used, you mute it. And that is another really great way of helping to eliminate feedback, because a lot of times feedback comes from open mics that are not being used. So what do you guys think? Is that a technique that you guys use, or do you prefer the open mic?
Definitely, yeah. I definitely just mute things off. I have encountered people that just like will turn the fader down all day, but then to me that kind of loses the point of putting it where you have it before, and you kind of, whatever. So yeah, I just mute stuff.
Yeah, that makes sense. What do you think, Charles?
Yeah, I totally agree with that. As far as if you're not using a mic, cut it off in some shape, form, or fashion. But once again, that's going to vary based on the soundboard you have. The soundboard that our church has is very simplistic, so it does not have a quote-unquote mute button. So what we have to do to manage our mics is utilize the slider. So I have to drop the slider when I'm not using the mic and then raise it. So that's why tried to aim to shoot for that 0 point or that unity point that's the sweet spot, so that could be my quick way of turning the mic on and off. Now, another church that I've dealt with and worked in, their soundboard is a little more advanced, and it actually has a mute button. So once again, that technique varies based on the kind of board you're dealing with. If I had a mute button, believe me, I'd use it instead of the slider, but I don't have one.
Well, yeah, I mean, if you don't have a mute option on your soundboard, then you can't really utilize that, right? I guess the final thing that we'll do is this coming up? This website?
Yes.
So there are pieces of equipment that will help eliminate feedback for you. You know, equipment isn't perfect, so just be aware of that. And you can see a couple options here. I'll scroll down. Varying price points, and of course, each one kind of has its own pros and cons. So if you're finding yourself struggling with feedback and you're going through the methods and the tips and the techniques that we've kind of shared already, and you're still having an issue, this may be a good solution for you. That will take a lot of the guesswork out of it. And I know that a lot of the digital mixers out there have the capability of being able to kind of monitor your frequency spectrum live and either automatically turn down troublesome frequencies that are inducing feedback, or at least notify you. Like PreSonus, if you're running a computer that's plugged into it, there's a module that will give you what's called an RTA, a real-time analysis. It basically will show you a frequency spectrum and where your sound is residing in that spectrum. And if one frequency starts to spike, in other words, it's going to start to feed back, it'll notify you that it's spiking and ask if you want to turn it down, which is really cool, so. But yeah, there are options. There is help out there. I did a quick Google search and came up with 3 pretty helpful guides for how to deal with feedback, and I will be posting those in the chat here, and I'll post them in the appropriate communities as well after the hangout. But so let's go ahead and move on to, there we go, other issues. So Zach, Charles, tell me what's most common in your experience, hums or hisses?
For me, definitely hisses. One of the most annoying things. Are specific live, or can we broach into recording as well? Are we mostly just talking live?
Okay, so hisses is always a good thing to talk about. How about you, Charles?
Mine's probably the other side of the spectrum. I've seen a lot of electrically induced hums based on, churches where people just said, let's throw a sound system together without much professional consultation. So I've seen a lot of electrical hums, and I can get into more of that if you want me to, but I think that's a good segue for you. Okay.
Very good. Well, let's just take this in order. I'm certainly not the authority here, but I can kind of shotgun it here and tell you what my thought process is in regards to hums and hisses. So we'll start with hisses. In any audio application, be it sound system in your car, a home theater system, a live PA, an installed sound system, a concert, whatever, you have what's called a signal-to-noise ratio. Okay, so that is the amount of signal to the amount of noise that's inherent in the system. In all systems, I don't care how much they cost or how big they are or anything, or what the equipment is, there is noise. Okay, the idea is to get your signal level way above your noise level. Now this noise level is also called the noise floor. And what will generally happen with hiss, Now, Zach, correct me if I'm wrong. I'm assuming you're hearing hiss either coming out of the monitors or coming from the speakers.
Mainly speakers, yeah.
Okay, so that would be your noise floor that you're hearing, which generally means that you've raised the volume so high that you're hearing the noise floor. So what happens is if your ratio between signal and noise is like this, then the more you raise the signal, the more you raise the noise floor with it, because that's a fixed ratio. Okay, that's not you raise this without raising this. The only way to do that is to get more signal, like we were talking with proper mic etiquette. If I'm holding the mic out here versus right here, that's a direct way that you get more signal. Okay, does that make sense? So now another way to do that, like with instruments, a lot of guitars that plug in, a lot of amps, that kind of thing, they have volume adjustments, keyboards, that kind of thing. So if you're not getting enough signal and you're starting to hear that hiss, that means that you have to increase the signal somehow. So if it's vocals, then you need them to either sing louder, move the mic closer, maybe try a different microphone. You know, something maybe a little more sensitive, because the sensitivity, if the sensitivity increases, so does the signal. I mean, that's straightforward. That makes sense. So that would be my first place to start with the noise floor, or with the hiss in the sound system. Does that make sense?
Yep.
You're muted, by the way.
Yep, sorry.
He's nodding. Okay.
There we go.
It's all good. You are a good hangout guest. I like it. So as far as hum, that can be a little bit more tricky. And both hum and hiss can also be bad cabling. So it's not a bad idea to come up with or go out and get an audio cable tester, and they're relatively inexpensive. For instance, you have our church has a Behringer unit that will allow you to test, you know, XLR, male and female, quarter-inch TS and TRS, which is extremely helpful. And I'll just pop that up here real quick. So, I mean, for $30, it's, I mean, there's really no reason why not. And it has this really cool little section here. I'm not sure if that little magnified circle is showing up, but this will tell you where the problem lies if a cable is bad. It'll tell you if pin 1, 2, or 3 is bad, or if you're on a quarter-inch connection, it'll tell you also pins and where the fault lies. And so that's really, really helpful. Whereas, and then way down here, if you look at that, that's a 1/8 inch micro jack or mini jack. So you can plug, you know, your cables between maybe your laptop, your iPod. You know, it's a standard headphone jack. So it's a very, very nice little tester, and it's really saved us more than once. And for $30, you know, I don't know many churches that couldn't afford that. So that is what I would definitely recommend as far as helping to diagnose cable issues. But getting back to hum, I'll put myself back on here. Taking cabling out of it. A lot of churches are somewhat old. You know, they're not built 2 years ago. And because of that, the electrical systems are not necessarily up to snuff with some of the, or up to the requirements of the newer AV equipment. And some AV equipment has very tight tolerances as far as what they are expecting power-wise. And this is the importance of getting not only a line conditioner, which quote-unquote cleans the AC power that is coming, or that is being provided to your equipment, but it's also important to get what's called a battery backup, which Preston, I'm going to mute you real quick. Welcome, by the way. And battery backup is always important because if your main power goes down and you're in the middle of a program, and say you're live streaming, normally that would just destroy your program right there. You know, all of your equipment would go down and you'd be stuck. Whereas a battery backup can, depending on how much is plugged into it, what it can handle, and you know, blah blah blah. There's a lot of variables. It could keep you up long enough if it's just a temporary, you know, 2 minute, 3 minute thing. Could keep your system up until the power comes back, which is awesome. But yeah, the power conditioners are huge. So I would definitely recommend looking into those if you're having hum issues. But generally, what you're looking at is what we call a ground loop. And that has to do with the ground for the electrical system in the facility. Particularly if you have a lighting system that's on the same ground as your audio system. And you may notice, this is actually an interesting test to find out where the hum is coming from. But if you have a lighting system, right, you run it at 100%, and then you're listening, you know, with your sound system turned on, and like a microphone, and somebody's talking into the mic, or you just have an open mic, and then you gradually start dimming the master fader on the lights, and sometimes a lot of times you'll hear a very audible buzz in the audio system, and that has to do with either a grounding issue between where power is coming from for audio and lighting. Generally, those come off of the same breaker, or not the same breaker, but the same panel, or you have a power cable for lighting that's running too close and parallel to an audio cable, an audio signal cable. So the general rule of thumb is that if your power cable, and it doesn't have to be lighting, just any power cable, if it's going to be running, if it has to run alongside an audio signal cable, you need 3 feet of separation, okay, if they're running parallel. Okay, if you have something like this, where they're going to cross each other, then you need to make sure that they're crossing at 90 degrees, and this has to do with the wave form, okay? So, and the fact that electrical lines and audio signal lines, I mean, they're all electrical signals, but they will produce an electrical field that actually extends beyond the cable itself, hence that 3 feet of separation. And oftentimes, if the waveforms clash together, it's a lot more technical than I can explain right now and even understand, then you're going to get that hum. So those are two of the most common areas that I find that hum is created. Sometimes you'll have a blown speaker, sometimes you'll have a subwoofer that's just going haywire, or a speaker that's going haywire that could create it, but generally speaking, you're looking at a grounding issue or an electrical line too close to an audio signal line. Okay. Hi, Preston. Welcome to the group. Let's see if I can unmute you now. Can you unmute yourself? I don't know. I'll figure it out here in a minute. So does that answer your question, guys? Oh, there's Preston. So Preston, quickly, where are you from?
Well, where my friend originally is Minnesota, but I'm right now in Honduras.
Honduras. Look at that, guys. We have an international guest. What time is it there?
Time, well, it depends on where you're at, but it's, I guess right now it's Mountain Standard Time.
Okay. So it's about 9:45?
Actually, 8:45.
9. Okay. I never can keep it straight.
I know, it's hard. I always use worldtimebuddy.com because I have conversations all over the world, so.
I gotcha. Well, if you caught my my little faux pas with time zones earlier today, It was like 7:30 Eastern time by the time Charles Smith was like, did you mean 7 Eastern time? And I'm like, oh, jeez. I can count, really. I have a college education. So anyway, well, I'm glad that you're able to join us, and we've talked about feedback, and I'm a little curious actually now that you've joined us. What are some of your experiences with feedback, and were you able to successfully defeat it? And if so, how did you do that?
Well, I'm not sure because I was only running at our church the video streaming through Google Hangouts, but we found out that because of our internet connections, not that they're bad. I mean, they have enough power to run it. The problem is it's not consistent, so things would drop off. It was a mess, and our audio wasn't coming through very well. So we decided just recently just to run a video and then upload it to YouTube. But we've had feedback in our microphones, and I know we have some type of mixer. I don't know what it is. It's a big controller with a whole bunch of buttons. And I think
Right.
there was somebody in the back when there's a feedback from the microphone. They adjusted something, but I don't know what it was.
Okay. Do you generally work in video or audio, or both?
I'm mostly video.
Okay. Do you guys have your own mixer, or do you require sound to come off of the front of house or the house sound?
No, we have a mixer. I'm assuming it's a mixer. I don't know the technical term, but I know
Sure.
it has to plug into, my computer, and then I know it has to also plug into some type of, I don't know what it is. It's like a remote thing. It has an antenna on it. So,
Oh, okay. So it's like
I
a
don't know if
wireless
that's-
something or other.
Yeah, I don't know. My brother-in-law is really the one who would be in charge of all that.
Fair enough.
He's
All right.
leaving now. Where are you at? Because you have a son, so you must not be in the U.S. area.
I am actually in Vancouver, Washington. I'm just north of Portland, Oregon, and it started off overcast and rainy, and the sun decided to grace us with its presence the last couple hours, which has been really nice.
Nice.
So it doesn't rain here 365 days of the year. Just want to put that out there. That's a myth, and it's not true. We do have gorgeous sunshine. It's been 97, I think, was the high so far this summer. And so yeah, if you guys want to visit, that's fine. If you want to move here, well, we'll need to chat. But
Cool.
anyway, well, I'm glad you're here, Preston. I would definitely appreciate any input that you'd like to add. But for now, I want to go over to Charles and ask, because Charles, I think, if I remember correctly, you're the one that was dealing with the hums in the system. And does that give you maybe some things to track down or to look into, or what do you think?
Yes, it does. Give me just a second. Let me reduce some of my background noise right now. Hold on.
Okay. Well, we'll go to Zach then. And so Zach was looking very, very excited with my comments on the hiss. Like, that all made sense, and it was like this really cool revelation. And I don't know, does that give you some something to look into?
Yeah, no, that was good. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I have experienced kind of that stuff and been kind of the same ideas. So yeah, no, it's good. Right on.
Excellent. And that gave us enough time to get Charles back. So I think, Charles, now you can answer the question I asked.
Yeah, as far as the hums, most of the things that I've seen has been subpar cabling, which I'm not going to name some of the cabling because some of the people viewing this broadcast might think I'm scolding them, so I'm going to leave that alone because they'll see this later when I share it with them. But some of it's subpar cabling, some of it has been grounding issues, but a good chunk of it that I've noticed has been cabling placement combined with subpar cable, like running the audio cable right next to a power cable. I've seen a lot of that.
Yeah, people just don't know. They're like, well,
Yep,
cable's a cable, right?
exactly, exactly. And I'll be honest with you, when I'm in a hurry, you're talking about your mobile setup. When I'm in a hurry helping somebody out messing with something, I'll just run the cable wherever it's convenient. And then when I turn the system on, I'm like, where's that hum coming from? And then I'm like, duh, what did I just do?
Yeah, I hear that. I was running lights for a mobile 6 camera live production system, and I was, like I said, doing the lights, and sometimes you don't have a choice. You have to run cables side by side, and I hated doing it because invariably I'd have at least a few of my lights running at 70% intensity instead of 100%. At 100%, for some reason, um, it was like the hertz and the frequency, it all just kind of blended, and there was no problem. The second I started dimming those lights down, man, it was wah, just that nice 60 hertz hum that you were probably all so familiar with. Um, and that's the other thing, if you're hearing a hum, and I don't know, I should try and find an example of a 60 cycle hum and post it in the various groups that we're all a part of. And that way you get an audible reference as to what a 60 cycle hum sounds like. And then you could be like, in the future, you'd be like, oh, that's from power. Whereas a hum in, say, a bad cable would sound different. Or, one thing I've had quite a bit with wireless microphones, the headset mics will get a cable that when you wiggle it, you get intermittent connection, and it sounds scratchy, and you get signal and, well, voice basically that cuts in and out. Oh, that is so annoying. And it's so irritating to try and track that down, because how many different connections do you have between the microphone and the board, right? So I'm not sure if you guys have experienced that, or a lot of the manufacturers, they'll have these cables that disconnect from the headset, and the idea is that when the cables fail, you just unplug it from the headset and from the belt pack, and you just replace the cable. Well, that's great, except when this connection up here fails, and it usually snaps in, and when it doesn't do that anymore, it just keeps falling out. And I've I've seen people duct tape the cable into the headset, and they expect that to work. And it's like, no, you need to replace the whole thing. And they're like, well, that's $300. And it's like, well, it's the cost of having wireless. Um, is that all? No, let me not ask that. Have you guys had intermittent cable issues like that, Charles? You're kind of smiling.
Yeah, the intermittent cable issues that I've seen has been a little bit different issue, and I still see it to this day. And it has to do with, I guess, maybe it comes from being in the South, it has to do with humidity and dust. And I mainly notice it like on the monitoring headphone jack that I have on my soundboard. If you don't wiggle those connections every few months, there's like some dust and humidity that builds up in there. I'm saying that, I may not have the terminology right. And when you wiggle those connections, you hear that scratchy sound. There's nothing wrong with the port. It's kind of like a squeaky door. You have to oil a squeaky door. It seems like some of these connectors, you have to wiggle them every now. I don't know. Maybe I'm doing the wrong thing again, and you'll call me out on it. But that's something I've seen quite frequently.
I honestly, that's the first I've heard of that. That's actually quite interesting. Do you Are you in a situation where you plug and unplug your cables, like you wrap your cables and put them away, or do you leave them plugged in during the week?
They're pretty much static. They're all the time plugged in all the time, and I've had this problem with every sound system I've dealt with. So that's why I'm wondering, maybe it has to do something with the climate down here in Texas. But it just seems like there's some sort of static buildup or something that occurs in the connectors, and when you wiggle them a little bit, the static is really noticeable. It's really annoying. You try to do it when the sanctuary is empty, and then once you get through wiggling, it's like it's clean, it's clear, it wiped out whatever's in there. I don't know. since you said you've never seen that before, I'm wondering if it's a climate-related issue.
Well, it might be. You know,
Because
you said that.
if it was a connector issue, it wouldn't clear up after you wiggle it a little bit. It would just keep being there because it's a bad connector.
Right. Do you you're in Texas, right?
Yeah, that's correct. In East Texas, so it's very, very humid here. It's almost like being down on the coast kind of humid.
Okay. So do you find that you have wild swings in humidity and moisture content in the air?
Very much so.
Okay, because I'm wondering if maybe condensation is forming, or you know how you put something really cold on like a book or something and it starts to sweat. I'm wondering if maybe something like that is happening. Um, I'm certainly not the expert on this, but I also know that generally speaking, if you want weather-tight connections for your audio ports and connections, you have to pay extra for that. They don't just come that way. So I know that they're not airtight, and they're certainly not moisture-tight or moisture-proof, uh, let's say. And to do that would cost, yeah, I don't even want to go there. But that's an interesting thing. When's the last time you unplugged the cables and looked at the contacts on the cables?
Probably been a little while. So
Because
you're
I'm
thinking
wondering
maybe
if,
clean the contacts to maybe help it or something?
yeah, I'm wondering if maybe you have like an oxidation issue, maybe.
It might be. I don't know.
Well, let's find somebody else who can talk a while, and I'll see if I can find something about that. Um, how about we have Zach tell us about some more about the hisses. Have you found that it occurs at certain times when you're running sound, or is it associated with a certain action that you take, like turning the volume up, as I indicated? What are some of the patterns that you've noticed?
Yeah, it usually has to do with the noise floor for me. Um, so it's not. It's more of just. It was interesting to hear if it's not just me, and that is definitely the noise floor. On most of the situations, it happens with me because I do work with other people and other sounds frequently as well. So, but one thing I was going to say, not about hisses, but about um, the connectors and the crackling or whatever. Um, I don't know if it's related or not, but I have noticed, especially like with quarter inch like headphone, like eighth inch to quarter inch adapters, if you don't have a really like good quality adapter, like you know that like as far as either lining or if you're going to insert to a channel on a soundboard, even just if you know theoretically the connection is there, but you can wiggle it back and forth, and you'll still have maybe you can hear a crackling or a loss of signal or something. Sometimes that has to do with the adapter, or again, like we kind of talked about, if it's a cable issue. But I don't know if that's related, but that's something that came across my mind when I heard that.
All right. Um, I think I can take that on. Give me a second. I gotta find an image here that will explain what I'm talking about. Because if I try and describe it to you guys without images, I don't know about you guys, but I'm a very visual guy. And if I don't have a visual of it, then um, it's just not going to make any sense. So I am just thrilled that screen share is working this time. It wasn't working last time. It was really annoying. All right, so here we have, I'm assuming you guys can all see this. We have two different quarter-inch connectors. We have TRS, which is tip ring sleeve, and we have TS, which is tip sleeve. So TRS would be your traditional left-right for all intents and purposes stereo. So they split out the signal into left and right. On the right, you have a mono signal, which just has one channel left. So the tip would be the positive, and the sleeve would be the negative, the ground. And the ring on the TRS would be the other channel. So be it left, right, however you choose to wire it or however it's wired. Now the importance of this is that if you plug in a TRS cable into, let's say your soundboard has a 1/4 inch insert, let's say, and you plug it in expecting to get stereo sound out of that thing, well, the receptacle that you're plugging it into may not be TRS. It may be TS. And so I have found that sometimes you'll have to take a TRS cable and pull it out a little bit so that you get sound out of it. I'm not sure if that's necessarily what you're describing, but I've noticed that 1/4 inch tends to be a very problematic connector. It's certainly not my favorite. I prefer XLR. I mean, far and away, it's a much more stable connector. It's a lot easier to terminate, certainly, but it's also easier just to work with in general. So I'm not sure, Zach, where you dropped off there, but we're talking about the difference between TRS and TS. And are you familiar with the difference? I'm not sure he's fully with us, but how about you guys, Preston, Charles? Does that make sense?
Yeah, definitely makes sense. In the case of our soundboard, all our mics are XLR, but all your auxiliary stuff, like say a audio feed from a DVD player or a computer or things like that, they're either RCA jacks or they're usually a 1/4 inch TS on the soundboard. Like a lot of the conversions I've had to do is go from RCA jack to 2 TS ones. You got one TS input that's a left channel and one TS that's a right channel. So yeah,
Right.
definitely seen that.
Preston?
Sorry, I'm trying to unmute it.
Yeah, you're good. You're good. Well, you were unmuted.
I was. There we go. I see my thing.
Yeah.
No, like I said, I've seen that before in our equipment. I don't know really what we have. It's good education though, because I know I've seen it in our soundboard and our microphones and those things. So I can't really comment on it. Like I said, I'm more on the video side, and I've never seen that actually plugged into any of our video stuff.
Yeah, I hear you there. It's an important distinction. I mean, my main business is video production, but I find myself even in a video situation, I'll be called in to do a live event, and they will invariably have a soundboard that I have to plug into, and if I don't know the difference between a TRS and a TS, and they don't know if I'm plugging in, it's just trial and error. So I come prepared to handle both. Because I know what I can plug in on my side and what I can't. So I'm just going to blue box that for right now. And Preston, if you could mute yourself again, please. Thanks. It's just weird. We're getting a lot of low-end rumble on your mic.
I have the fan on.
Ah. Well, Honduras, I would imagine it's probably just a little warm down there. So hopefully that makes sense. I mean, I could go and get the technical definition of of what the difference is between the TRS and the TS. One's balanced and one's unbalanced, I believe. And that term right there always confuses me, so I've just given up trying to understand that. But as far as the issue that Zach was talking about, this may be part of that. Certainly when you wiggle it around inside the connector, it's, you're, well, first off, if it's that loose, then you've definitely got a problem, hands down. Because it should be a tight connection, regardless if it's XLR, RCA, TOSLink, SPDIF, regardless of the connection, it should be tight. If it's not, then there's probably an issue that needs to be looked at. But again, if you're wiggling it around, you're kind of putting it in contact, then taking the contact away, and that could be why you're getting that noise, which is never a good thing. So, any other issues that you guys want to talk about in regards to audio? Or, Preston, certainly you're representing video here. Is there any questions you have in regards to video and how, any problems that you have there?
Well, like I said, I mean, we're a very small church here in Honduras. I mean, we're bigger than some, but we've had ministry. I think my mother and father-in-law has been in ministers for 40-some plus years. So, we finally have a church, and we finally have, some equipment. When I was trying to do the web broadcast, I was using one of these that I'm using now, and that didn't work at all. And we figured that we might use one of our digital cameras that we take good pictures with, and obviously there's a setting that you can, do movies, and so we're thinking, okay, well, maybe we can use that as a broadcast tool. And I was talking to my brother-in-law, and he did some searching. He goes, yeah, we can plug, something into the computer, we got some cheap one, I can't remember the name of it now, but it's really bad quality. And it plugs into the computer, but then at least we can have the audio on 2 channels, and we can have the video. But like I said, we were experimenting with that for a while. It did okay, but it's still not the highest quality camera. It's not. I mean, I came from a church in Minnesota that had the beautiful equipment, and the SLR camera just doesn't do the job real well, even though it's decent. It's better than a webcam. But what we're doing now, because of the fact that we don't have that fast internet access always, and actually last week we didn't have anything because we didn't have any power. But what we decided to do is just go in front of the church now and actually recording of just the sermon, and it did okay. But the problem is you have an audio coming from a camera, so it's really tinny, and I don't know if there's a way that we can connect something to it from the back to that camera so we do get better sound. Because everything's coming through the soundboard. Of course, if somebody's not using a microphone, or the instruments that have the microphone aren't turned on for whatever reason, then the sound is horrible again. So I don't know if there's a solution to that at all.
Yeah, Preston, one quick question on your issue there with audio with your camera. Does your camera actually have an audio input on it? That's the one thing I didn't pick up on. Does it have like a mic input in it?
Preston, did you hear the question?
Yeah, I did. Hold on, let me check. I don't know.
Yeah, because the reason why I'm asking, and Tim may correct me if I'm once again getting off on, should I say, I'll use this terminology since I live there, the redneck path, is if you have another mic and the appropriate adapters, you might be able to wire a mic directly into the camera and set it right next to the same mic that goes back to the soundboard, so that you've got a mic feeding the soundboard and a mic feeding your camera. It's a crazy idea, and maybe there's challenges to doing that Tim could mention, but it's just something that pops off the top of my head.
Well, what it has.
Oh yeah, go ahead.
What it has is HDMI, which is nice, but we've never used it. The AV out, of course, we use that in the back, but I would have to bring my computer, I guess, all the way up there. But since we're not doing live broadcasts, it really doesn't make sense yet to use that. And then it has a DCN, which obviously is just a battery, or so using battery.
Yeah, it sounds like it doesn't have an audio in, but it sounds like that's like a consumer grade camera. Most of your consumer grade cameras don't have an external mic input, and that's the same issue with our camera. The camera we have doesn't have an external mic input, but we've got the internet. Our camera's right next to the soundboard, so we basically feed the sound into the computer and the video from the camera, and that's how we make it work. But yeah, if you had a camera with a mic input, you'd have a little more options available.
So wouldn't HDMI, could we get a cable that goes HDMI to onboard?
Yeah, HDMI is just a output. See, that's the thing. You need an input, and it sounds like the way you're describing it, everything on your camera is an output.
Yeah.
Preston, can you tell me the make and model of the camera?
Yeah, it's an older Nikon Coolpix L810. The other issue we were having was the fact, and I can't solve this. I tried. Well, I saw one part of it is basically, it would squares in front of people's heads. Yeah, it took me trying to figure out why that camera was doing it, but I guess it has an automatic setting. I finally figured out how to turn it off, but there's still a little white focusing that's always in the middle. I can't get rid of it, and then the camera will shut off after 30 minutes of use. So if my father-in-law goes longer, which he does, I make sure I catch it in time and then start it over again.
So just running that by me again. Sorry, I just need to get this model again. L810?
No, L810. Coolpix.
Okay. Go ahead, Charles.
Okay. Yeah. While Tim's looking up that model, that'll basically tell us if it's got an input or not. But yeah, as far as the boxes around the faces, that's typically a menu option you have to disable. That a lot of these cameras have enabled by default. So that's sometimes a challenge. We've got a church in our district that was their problem. I had to help them learn what that was and how to avoid it. Let's see. The other issue you said was it shutting off after 30 minutes. Once again, this might be something Tim can answer when he pulls up the model number. But if that camera has a Wi-Fi feature where you can connect to it via Wi-Fi and do various things with it, sometimes those Wi-Fi features will create a 30-minute timer if there's not enough activity happening with the camera. If you're not touching the screen or zooming in and out, that'll shut the camera off if that Wi-Fi feature is turned on. So if you don't need that Wi-Fi feature, it's kind of good to turn it off. But from the description of that camera, Tim's probably going to confirm that camera doesn't have Wi-Fi because it's probably too old to have it. But we'll find out here.
Yeah,
Tim's got it listed up.
It's 2 years old, and the only thing that is on, I guess, the movie selector is movie options, VGA, and HD. And of course, I used to have it at HD, so we could only get a half hour of the sermon anyways. But then I turned it to VGA because we don't need that quality if we're doing an upload to YouTube. And that gave us, of course, another 30 minutes, so about an hour.
Okay, I got you. So what's going on is that your recording quality and you're maxing out the storage on the camera. It sounds.
Well, yeah, I was at first, but we figured that out. But what I'm saying is that it will time out, and after 30 minutes, it doesn't matter what I have the setting as. There's also autofocus mode, which of course I take off, or it has a. I realized single AF doesn't do the autofocus, and then it doesn't get blurry when he's talking, and I have to all of a sudden readjust it right away. And then it just has a noise reduction, and that's it. There's not a lot to the movie part of it. And then if you go into the image You know, you got different settings like 16M, which is the, I'm assuming the highest quality. It has white balance, has continuous,
Yeah,
which
16
is obviously
megapixel.
shots. Yeah. So I mean, it has the capabilities that we need, but I don't know. You know, I mean, I know we should have at least 8 megapixels for the video, but it doesn't tell me what it is. And I went through the manual and I couldn't find it. So I think we just need a new camera if we want to really do the broadcast again online. Because it just, you know, I was frustrated with it in so many different ways. So I said, okay, let's rethink this here. Because we'd like to do it live, but, you know, when we really look at it, we weren't getting that many people watching it live anyways. So we just decided, let's just record it, upload it after church, and, you know, hopefully they'll watch it, you know, when they get a chance type of thing. So.
Well, I found a something in the menu regarding auto off, or in the manual, sorry, auto off. I'm trying to locate that right now. There we go. So 58. All right.
Preston,
If no
just for
operations are, oh, go ahead.
well, I was just going to see if Preston could just type that model number in the chat, just in case, because I know his audio is kind of cutting out, so I wanted to make sure we absolutely had the right model number.
Is that the right one?
Yep.
Yeah.
That's it.
Okay. So in the manual on page 22, it says if no operations are performed for a while, the monitor will turn off, the camera will enter standby mode, and the power on lamp will flash. If no operations are performed for approximately another 3 minutes, the camera will turn off automatically. So
I just got to be aware of that and do the focusing or unfocusing and before that 30 minutes is up, you're saying.
well, I'm going to see if there's a way that you can actually disable that. There should be.
Okay. Well, I really appreciate this. I wasn't planning to be on this meeting, but I figured, well, I have to pick up my wife pretty soon from church, so she hasn't called yet, so maybe she's getting dropped off by somebody at home. Or her event is not over yet.
So in the setup menu, which is the wrench tab,
Yeah.
you have welcome screen, time zone and date, monitor settings, and then about halfway through you have auto off, according to the manual.
Well, on the shooting menu, or what are you on? Just the movie menu? Or the setup?
Setup.
Okay. All I have is reset all battery type and firmware version.
Wow. Interesting.
There's not a lot of options. Unless I'm in the wrong menu, but I don't want to menu button.
Cool text. Well, hang on a second. The link you posted is to a different thing entirely. That's interesting. Looks like a link you sent.
That's the one Charlie sent you?
Well, the one I looked up is a different site entirely.
Yeah, I just found the product page, and I'm trying to find the manual myself now.
You probably have to go to support.
Yeah, that's the rabbit I'm chasing right now.
Right.
Yeah, I know I have it as a PDF, so I've looked at it many times. It just, if you can't find it after a while, you're like, oh well, whatever.
Right. No, I understand. I'll tell you what. Why don't I do this? I want to know who's watching. Somebody, well, as the creator, I can see at the bottom that it says 1 viewer. I want to know who's watching, because if they're getting benefit out of this, then I won't stop the broadcast. But if they're not, then it doesn't make any sense to continue it.
That's true. This is recorded, so they can watch it later. But yeah, I mean, I don't want you to spend all your time on this. I appreciate it, but I don't know. I really
So if
couldn't.
you're watching this,
Comment, please.
please comment. Yes, exactly. Meanwhile, we will continue.
See, I got
Otherwise.
a playback menu, but that has nothing to do with.
Right. I think I'm just going to go ahead and stop the broadcast. So, there we go. Thank you for watching, and if you have any further questions, find us in Church Tech, Church Mag, Tech Applied, or Adventist Church Tech. Those are the 4 groups that I'm a part of, and probably Church Tech is the community on Google Plus that you can find most of us, Zach and Charles and myself. So thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the community.